Hey folks, welcome to the first official episode of the Greater Apes podcast. The last time was more of a trial, and honestly, this is a trial as we
It's
go.
also a trial. Yeah.
Yeah, we went on for a little bit on this one, and we touched on a number of topics. So my name is Jerry Williams. I'm here with my friend Jesse Vale.
And I'm Jesse Vale, also known as Bino. If we stick with the Greater Apes, he's the gorilla, I'm the chimp. If you see us I think it'll be pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we went over a bunch of stuff today. So we were talking about, Beat Saber and,
Beat Saber was a lot of what we were talking about.
Yeah, almost
But
uncomfortably so.
Yeah, because we go into some of the more creative elements of movement and the joy of being in a VR environment.
Right. And how that kind of, works into movement in other parts of our lives and how we're creative in our movement and other things.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. We talked about WandaVision, of course, because that just started up just the other day.
Yeah. And what we forgot to mention in this intro, you can find in the descriptions below, also with some spoilers. So just be careful. Take a look at that before you continue watching.
Yeah, and I think I'll try to put some timestamps in there. We do jump around a good bit. I'll put some time markers in there so you can get to the stuff you want. We don't expect you to sit for 2.5 hours, whatever length this ends up being. You might come back and want to get to where you were before, so we'll do that as well.
You're going to want to scroll through the entire thing, and when you see this look on my face, probably pretty good bit.
It's true. But with that, we're going to let you get to the show already in progress.
Yeah. Enjoy.
I got to make sure I stay hydrated. Man, yesterday, I don't know why, I just wasn't paying enough attention. And then end of day, me and Malachi are going over to kind of the Soja Warehouse. I don't know, which is off of Broadway to do a workout because it's just like me, him, and Peter. And it's like we can get really far away from each other and do stuff. But I was just like, okay, I got to go work out. And you get that head buzz of just like not hydrated enough, just like I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. So I'm like guzzling on the way, and I'm like, okay, for the first 15 minutes, I have to just manage my own like warm up because if I just like try to hit the ground running, almost literally, it's like I'm gonna just hit the freaking wall.
You know that happened to me yesterday on Beat Saber. Sometimes, man, I'm on fire. I know, really, like
it's just a funny thing, especially for older for older people, young people are probably like, oh man, that sucked, but for us, I understand.
Yeah, but when I just like hit a combo that is so hard and I look to my left and I'm in the hundreds for what do they call it? Hits, I guess.
Yes, your streak.
My streak, yeah. And I'm just like, fucking, I'm the best. It's just this feeling you get, right?
Right.
I tried to say something on Facebook about showing what it's like to play Beat Saber, because I remember that you did it when I hadn't played yet, and I thought that was really interesting, and I was like, okay, I might do this. And so I sort of like put out is anyone interested? And there's a friend of mine who we'll go unnamed, but he can be very cynical, and he's like, no. Right, like, because that is not interesting. Essentially, I was asking, hey, anybody want to watch me play my video games, right? But the reason I want to do it is, yes, I want somebody to go, damn, that was really good for a 51-year-old. But the other part is, I really want people to understand how fucking cool this game is, how the VR
or we are, like how it's like, remember, come on, folks, wake up, we're in the future.
Get there. I want to play online with you. I have 3 friends online. It's just so
I understand completely.
And I actually recorded some because I wanted to see, okay, how much room is this going to take on the rig. So I recorded a few, but not well, it's recorded in here, so it's not like seeing me. Now, here's where it gets funny, because yes, I think to myself, like, man, I am fucking awesome right now. And then, because I'm me, then I insert what I must look like on the outside.
Right, right, right.
I don't feel cool at
All of a
all.
sudden, you move into third person view, God view of yourself,
And I'm like,
and stumbling around.
that's what I look like,
Right.
you know. And believe me when I say, like, I try to look cool on the outside, not because
Uh-huh.
anybody's watching me, but because, well, you know,
It puts extra energy into it.
it puts extra
it gives it a
energy
life.
into it. Sometimes you play the game because you want to beat a score. Sometimes you play the game because you want to get a good streak. And sometimes you play the game where you want like really high points on a cube strike. You know,
Right.
you want it 115s as much as you can, which means like big angles and stuff, right? Oh my God. That was my alarm, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You know, like you know what I'm saying? So that
Yeah.
you can get a big streak. Sometimes you're just like, I'm gonna get through this game so that it doesn't pew pew pew. And I'm just gonna have fun. I'm
Right.
dancing. I'm
Right.
dancing.
And that's the mode I try to be in as much as possible, because that keeps my energy level, nice. So sometimes, you know, yeah, I know that I'll look insane,
Yeah.
and especially for me, because you know me, I like to dance anyway. I like, I like doing things physical. But
Yeah.
when I'm in there, sometimes, I'm extra dancey. It's like this is a
Yeah.
very dancey
You
song.
gotta put a
So,
little.
oh yeah, I'm all
Mhm.
and also since I like to add that kind of stuff into like my martial arts and things like that. So I want to make dancey so much, but
Flair.
stylized movement more natural.
Yeah, flair.
You have some flair, right?
Like, you know what I'm talking.
Yeah,
Yes, more natural. This is
yeah,
something that I actually have. Sometimes I
right.
do these weird things, you know. This is
Yes,
why everybody
I was
thinks
gonna
I'm
bring that up.
effeminate. Everyone thinks I'm effeminate and or gay, and that's fine. I don't care. It's kind of a compliment. I don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've seen me do it where I just go,
right,
"Nah," and I just,
right,
because as a puppeteer,
right.
remember there were some performances that literally or specifically Lewis and I did. Lewis, my mentor from Fairyland. People would watch us perform, not the puppets, because we would dance around each other because we were having fun. And this is
Oh
kind
yeah,
of,
that's why I would go backstage,
yeah,
behind, Fairyland. I've seen the puppet show 1,000 times. I enjoyed the puppet show, but I like watching, you know, the art happen, because the art is actually in that's the product. Up here is the
mhm,
product,
mhm.
as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, you
Yeah,
mean like
up
with a
here,
hand puppet show? You mean?
up here above the proscenium, it's right. But down here is the art part,
Yeah,
the things that you are doing, and so, but
yeah,
the creation is the art part, and the creation, when it comes to you performing a puppet show, is the act of doing the puppet show. The puppet show itself is the product,
yeah.
the
Because,
end
like, for
result
instance,
of the art.
yeah, for instance, when you're standing in a pit as a hand puppet, it's so hard to do on the small screen. But your puppet is facing the audience, but because you have to bring in a puppet from a specific place, you are personally back to the audience. You know, it's interesting things like that you get to see when you're watching backstage. That I'm actually performing a puppet backwards so that I could bring this puppet in here, and then I turn my entire body around, but the puppet doesn't move at all. That's the kind of stuff I really love to
Right,
see.
right. Yeah,
You know?
that's so. Yeah, it's that kind of flair, and what
Mhm.
that I like to add to it, because I like to do that in real life. And it's, for me, it's also kind of it's a physical training. It's like, as I get older, what I can do,
Mhm.
like in the broad sense, it has gone down compared to when I was younger, because like I can't jump as far, can't run as fast,
Mhm.
can almost lift as much because I'm still pretty strong. But there's things that I can't do. But what I can do is my movement can be more refined.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've been doing it more. It's like
Yeah.
I can be more stylized in my movement. And actually, it was something that came up yesterday in training with Malachi. Malachi's my 15-year-old son, and so we were talking about some of his strengths. He's got really good reflexes, and he's finding that Dodging is something that's really he's good at. Not everyone's really good at it. You know, it's like they clinch more than be calculated in their movements. And so he's shown like a strength in being able to like see where something's coming and move out of the way. And so we were talking about refining that. It's like, work on that, because then if you know that your strength is dodging. So I started explaining to him what a counterpuncher is. It's like a person who allows the other person to attack because they know they can avoid and capitalize on it. And it's like a timing thing. You need to be able to know exactly how far away the person you need to be, so then you can just and then come right back in. So we kind of talked about that. And it reminded me of a story of something that happened when I was in DC with some coworkers. Is just because we were in another town and I was bored and we had this long walk to go someplace, I decided to do something as kind of a training. And a coworker of mine who used to be an engineer, she's a very observant person. I didn't know she was noticing, but after about 10, 15 minutes of walking, she called me out. She said, "Jerry, I have a question for you." She said, "What?" She goes, Are you on purpose barely missing every object you walked by?"
I've seen you do that.
And I said, yeah, I am. And she goes, "Because first I thought it was just a coincidence, and I've been watching you for the last few minutes, and you are just barely like something will go by my head, and I'll move over toward it and just let it."
Right.
And it's just me.
You're testing yourself.
It's what do I know?
Yes.
Where are my boundaries at? And so I'll move over, and then I'll just move past it as I go by. And that's just a way of like refining my movement. It's just adding little thing. And so I do the same thing in Beat Saber or other programs that I work on. Is sometimes it's like, when you move to the side, you can move to the side. You can just do a step if you want. It's perfectly fine. Or you can just move your head if you want, because it's a computer. It thinks you moved over. But if you can move over and do a little side step like that and just like let it glance by your face.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just cooler. It's just cooler.
It feels cooler. It's also like, it is Beat Saber. So there are beats, but that when you start on easy, they're probably on the quarter note. Right. Probably on the half note. Right. Or then you get to the hard and they'll add a few eighth notes in there and so on. But when you get up to expert, that's some crazy shit.
Right.
There's like half beats and
and they'll be on the down, because for people who don't play. So for example, there'll be a specific tempo, boom, 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 and the song may have a particular tune. Do dee do 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 dee do do do. Right. That might be a specific tune. And so on the lower levels, the movements might just be do dee do 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 do. You're swiping do dee do 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 do. Right. But when you get to the higher levels, you think in terms of if the same song was being interpreted by a jazzy person.
Yeah.
The song is still playing the same, but the beats have been interpreted by a jazzy person. So the person's going do dee do 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 do.
Exactly.
And so it's still perfectly
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have to add beats because there's a space there.
There's a gap. Right.
And that's fine because that's part of the challenge, right? But I will do a little extra action with my hand. I'll even do like I'm trying to do it in camera. I'll do a little whoa in. You know
flourish,
what I mean? Yeah, some
flourish.
Sort of flourish and stuff. So, but okay, so now we're talking about again being on Beat Saber, feeling like a badass. Wanting other people to say, "Gosh, you got to play this. You'll feel like a badass."
Right.
You want to show them.
Yeah.
So the recordings that I made on my rig, I would show those because it looks cool, because you can't see my square ass short leg body struggling.
Right.
I mean, frankly, but there's also this, and here's the story. So you heard earlier that Jerry likes to dance, and ultimately I do too. I think everybody likes to dance. Like when nobody's looking or something like that, and you push a little move out, you can feel good, right? but there's always for me, even though I'm a performer, there's always been something about people's eyes on me. So going to a dance club, I sometimes if I've had a few drinks,
Right.
I can do it, but I still feel very subconscious.
Right.
But I kept trying to push.
But you're not going to volunteer. Hey, let's go to a dance club tonight.
No, but when I did, I was like, okay, I got to push myself. I got to push myself, feel the fear, do it anyway, all that stuff. And then I was once listening to NPR. I think it must have been Science Friday, considering the content, where they said, they talked about a finding that like men over 40, when they dance, they make moves that tell the opposite sex, do not mate with this. I've never been able to forget it because I see it. You've all seen it. You've seen your uncle dancing and there's something really uncomfortable about it. That's the thing that they're talking about. It just goes, ooh, there's something, it's like looking at somebody who's got their eyes a little bit bigger on that side. You just go, oh, the gene pool. But yeah, so that's what I feel. But I'm trying to combat it, and Beat Saber does help. I actually I wish we had better backgrounds just to film ourselves.
Right.
Just in rooms with backgrounds and so on and so forth. Because I do think it would be interesting. I pitched you on this, but you never answered it on text.
About old guys doing.
Yeah, old guys doing Beat Saber.
Right. I would be up for it if we did have a good way of producing it. If we had a place, like for example, like when COVID's over, and if the soldier, if
you and I in the same room.
And say so COVID's over, and say we still have access to the soldier warehouse.
There you go.
Or then we could put a roll drop that's a big green screen.
Or better yet, dude.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo! Better yet, getting some of our friends with good cameras to do a nice turnaround, to make it look like jazzercise. Remember that angle? The camera spins around you.
Right. Get a rig.
My God.
Because the thing that's hard, and I know what you want to do, and why you want to show it to people, and I'm the same way, is you can't translate how it feels to you.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And you want people to understand that this technology, as dorky as it is, it's you. And I tell my wife all the time, I said, okay, I'm going to go upstairs and punch nothing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ride the bike to nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I'm literally just swinging my hands at phantoms that only exist in my mind.
I once showed a friend on Zoom because he wanted to see what it was like, because I was trying to talk him into getting one.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin, my friend Dustin. And so we turned the camera on me so that he could see the big screen. So I did a casting onto the television screen with me in the shot doing all this stuff. And of course he's excited. He actually wants one. He's a gamer. So I thought, like, this is gonna be so cool. He's gonna like it. He's gonna see it. And that was all it was about, was me showing him how cool it can be. And so I did. I can't even remember which one, but it's one of these ones where you have to put your hands like real up in the air and so on and so forth. And I felt like David Brent. I was just straight up David Brent doing that old. I mean, and I heard him, even though the speakers are right here. I heard him go, "Well, that looks awkward." My illusion was just shot.
Yeah. And that's the thing that you can't translate to people. Is like, understand, this looks dorky, and when they do it in commercials, they put them in a green screen and they get rid of everything and make it look like they're actually there, so you can see where the movement is.
And they're dancers or anime characters
or models, whatever. So there's no bad angle on them. But the fact is, you feel like that when you're playing.
You do. And
that is great for your own personal energy. You come out, it's like, I wasn't able to do it today. Usually before doing this, I'll get on the virtual bike. I'll do something just so that I kind of have that glow about me, that little,
Mm-hmm.
before recording. I just get myself like, yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
baddest MFer on the planet,
That's
and
what
you're
it
going to
feels like.
listen to me.
That's what it feels like. That's
Yeah.
really what it
Yeah.
feels like. And
And it's
and now
silly, but it's a healthy silly.
it's a healthy silly. And that's what I was just about to say, is that I don't exercise, Jerry. You know this. It's just always been an issue for me. And I do this 3, 4, 5 times a week for like an hour.
Yeah, a couple times
And
a day if you can. Yeah.
I am sweaty at the end. I am really working out. And I actually have to tell myself to stop because I have other things to do.
Yeah.
And I just wish that part too was around people. Like a friend of mine once mentioned to me, he said, "Oh, you should talk to Kaiser Hospital. Maybe they will supplement an Apple Watch type thing so that because you'll be healthier." And they're all about,
I love this thing. It keeps
yeah,
it gives me goals every day.
thrive and so on and so forth. And it occurred to me, VRs should be given to people who need to exercise more, really, because even the slow, like I think some people are I think they're scared of not being able to do it.
Right.
But you can. Nobody. Well, okay, one person I know can handle Expert Plus. So if you can't get to Expert Plus, don't even worry about it.
Right. And I'll get, and I know who you're talking about. And every so often I get notices on my Oculus saying this person is catching up to you, or has just leveled past you. You should get back on and beat their score. And I'm like, that person's 30 years younger than me.
Yeah.
That's not my goal. My goal is to do things that I can accomplish, but do it on a consistent basis and feel good about it.
Yeah,
I don't want to do things and constantly fail at it and feel like I'm failing and not achieving things. It's like,
right, because there has to be a measure of failure, but where you say, how do we explain it? You know what I'm talking about. Everybody listening knows what I'm talking about. You fail and then you see the solution, or you see a possible solution, and that keeps you going. There's a dopamine hit there to keep going.
Right.
Expert Plus,
it's not it. It's a carrot. It's a carrot that is within reach.
Yeah.
But if you don't move right, it will swing away from you.
Yeah.
Right. So
you have to move right.
But no one wants to have a carrot in front of them that they are never going to get. At least no person. Now, an animal, a mindless thing, will all keep going.
Right.
But if you know that you are never going to get that one, it's annoying. Now, if you know that it's right there and you just have to do that thing,
and that's how I feel about some of the expert levels.
Then they're great for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But and to me, that's a sea change between expert and expert plus. It's an entirely different game.
Right.
Because it's a whirlwind.
Right.
Have you ever played one on no fail? Just to see if
I almost always play. I never play on. I rarely play on no fails. So
you got to try some of them on no fail, because you can hit some of them, but then all of a sudden there's this flurry of stuff, and you're just like, come on. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
But and then also, if people watching this are thinking like, all right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get one, I highly recommend it.
Right.
We are not sponsored by, but if anyone wants to point out that they bought it because of us, hey, thank you. But no, going into that game specifically, that even hard levels, like, you know what I'm talking about, Camellia,
that whole section
of thing, they're designed differently, utterly differently, because hard is like an expert on other ones.
Right.
There's no way I could.
But they're add-on packs that for people who have already been doing things.
I think that one comes with it.
But
I think that one comes with it. But
I would recommend this stuff for people.
It's so fascinating.
But it reminds me. So this morning, I do about an hour to an hour and a half of VR biking on a stationary bike. Got the Oculus Quest. Play video games, just ride the California hills kind of thing. They have this like fake California hills thing that I'll do. But my left pedal has been dying on me. Right, the bearings are getting stupid or whatever. I've had to take it out, clean it out, spray it down, and it just finally just died on me this morning. And I've been meaning to order another pedal. So I went searching for it, and this is going to be a conversation change, but it comes up because of the virtual reality.
Okay.
So I went searching. I found a compatible one on Amazon, and I want to show you what they say after me. Literally, all I've done was search for bike parts.
Okay.
And recently, I think I watched a couple videos, and I think I bought some protein powder
Okay.
because Malachi needs like a little bit more or something. But I have a really tame search history, So
Yeah.
this is what popped up. So we're gonna shop this a little bit.
I knew something like this was coming.
Okay. So do you have any idea what you're looking at here?
Well, it looks like gear for storming the Capitol.
That's what I see. Now, understand, I just bought bike parts, so the only thing that actually makes sense is this one. The third one is a training mask. It's like a mask that you put on in order to restrict oxygen, so that you have a more difficult, exercise regimen. Right? You have to breathe harder.
The one on the right.
The third one. Oh, the one from the second one from the right.
That's a mask. It looks like a bottle of something.
It is a mask. It does look like a bottle. But so we have some pants that have a bunch of pockets and are like super durable and and things. Then we have a baton.
Right.
And then we have
holsters
for concealing your firearm. This is what they suggested to me.
This is why I'm not afraid of AI.
Yeah.
Not yet.
But
you can't guess this shit.
But this is okay. But how irresponsible is this?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I was just like, because right above this, it said like related items, right? And it had like the actual bike that the pedals I got. Go to and had like a helmet and some gloves. So like related items that made sense given what I just purchased. But then more items to explore. It's like, who decided that this is what the algorithm should be putting out there?
Yeah. And how useful is this to a biker?
No, it's not. So it's more like to people in general. Hey, you're living. We noticed you're in America. Maybe you should think about gearing up. What is it?
I mean, I wonder if that is part of the algorithm somehow. That is something that's going on. Is it? What is it looking at to make these suggestions? What is it looking at? Obviously, it's not looking at you.
Right, and it's not looking at my purchases.
No.
Yeah.
This is why I'm not afraid of AI, even though early Facebook was hilarious, because I can't tell you how many ads I had for gay cruises. And I thought that was really funny because it was only based on my words. So I was like, what is going on here? What am I doing? What am I typing? Literally, what am I typing?
Right. To
inform them that I might be gay. Never figured it out.
Puppetry, theater.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Puppetry, theater. Maybe how many female friends I had on Facebook.
But I mean, it's a stereotype. I mean, you're a theater guy. You talk a lot about theater.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, we're people. Anybody who listens to this, watches this on a regular basis, will understand the passions that you and I have. You're a theater guy. On one, you enjoy theater, but also you're about the production of theater. That's a big thing. Putting on the show. I'm more of the consumption of theater. It's like, yes, I'm a big middle-aged black guy that likes martial arts and likes fighting sports and things like that. But I love Broadway musicals.
Oh my God,
I love those things. I just I love that thing that creation that magic we can do as a people. We create
Yeah.
these things. It's
I
freaking
know what you just referenced.
yeah.
You just referenced Sports Night, Dana.
Well, probably.
You know what I mean?
Not even,
Because,
not even
well,
thinking
no,
about it anymore. It's just part of me.
that's
now.
how we feel about it.
Yeah.
But that was what was so cool about seeing that scene.
Yes.
Is that she's like, yes, that's how we feel. That's exactly how we feel when we walk out of a musical.
Yeah.
And I wish more people could help produce musicals, because man, it's even cooler backstage. Even though you see the magic.
Right. But see, in the end, that's the product. That's the product.
But it's just so cool. And I guess it's because you know the actors and the dancers and stuff. And when you see them excel, there's not only how cool it is, but how cool your friends are.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
and
sense?
There's something about, and it's even more so when you know the people, but it's something about watching people who are just the best at what they do.
Yeah.
That are just excelling. Where it's awesome to see. When someone's killing it. And you're just like, look at us. It's like us as a people. We can do this thing, because as much as we suck.
Yeah.
And as much as we get down on ourselves, it's like, oh man, human beings are destroying the planet. We're terrible. We're a virus on this surface of this planet. But at the same time, you got to go. It's like, we are awesome. Look at this thing that we can do. Look at these things that we can make. And I know that person. I saw that person when they were struggling with that number.
Yeah, exactly.
When they were just walking through the steps.
That's exactly what it is, because you see the progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on a side note, but related to this, is producing professional theater, and being backstage and seeing those people do the best that like a human can do. Like I've seen some dances that I just don't even understand how they did it, But on a similar vein, but even better, is when you're teaching theater. Because we had a production, and I'm not going to say what the production was, because you protect kids' identities and the like. But there was this one young lady who was as shy could be, hands over her mouth when she smiled, shy. And she was given a major role because she has a nice singing voice. And there were discussions between directors and so on and so forth, trying to figure out how to get her to open up a little bit more. There was a table that I made that she had the step on, and it scared her. She was telling me, like, is it solid? Is it? I was like, I promise, dear, it's gonna be fine. So, as teachers, you give them a safe environment. So we were able to do that. And I think it must have been the second performance, once she'd already felt what it was like to be on stage in an audience, with an audience, that she slayed. It was
showed up.
Amazing.
She showed up. The real her showed up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like to the point where all of us on headsets, and I'm communicating with students in the booth and students on the other side of the stage, and students that have other responsibilities with sound and so on and so forth. And I've known some of these kids for 4 or more years, and this was a junior high school production, and all chatter stops. Normally they're just like yakety yakety yak, and I have to tell them to stop. Actually, I not really, because I'm the one that's usually doing it. Anyways, we all stopped. We couldn't, and I started to say something because I wanted to say, oh my gosh. They told me, shut up, Jesse, we're listening. And I jumped back in and I go, you guys, I'm sorry, I love you, but this is the best thing I've ever seen on that stage. And they're like, yeah, we know, shut up, we're listening. It was that good, dude. It was, what a thrill that is to see that happen. So Yeah,
Yeah, the problem is you also have they also have a job to do. It's like, yeah, I know, but you got to get ready for the next scene. You got to move.
yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's so funny because I keep them on task during the build. I'm not usually involved too much with rehearsal, but I am in the background. So I'm telling people to, get with it and so on and so forth. And that's usually when I'm most stressed out. So I'm building, I need to get things done and so on and so forth. I can be a little bit more snippy. But when that show's up and running and there's nothing else I have to do except to be backstage, I'm the one that disrupts the show. And they're like, Jesse, be quiet. Shh. And I go, nobody can hear me in the audience. We've gotten into a thing just to finish this up. We've gotten into a thing where we hide me in a piece of scenery that goes on stage.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah,
you told me about that.
And then I go on the headset and I say, I can neither confirm nor deny that I am on stage right now. And then they have to guess where I am. It's silly, but it's super fun.
You touched on it briefly, and because it comes back to the VR thing a little bit. Is watching. We were talking about watching someone get better and accomplish. That's the one thing that is great about something like Beat Saber and some other things that I've done. There's a couple I can't even remember now, and I wish I had recorded it, and I thought about doing it for another number. I tried it the first time, way out of my league.
Yeah.
I bomb out. I bomb out after 25% of it. Right. I can't remember which one it was, but then I said, okay, I'm going to try this. I went into the testing mode and I brought it down to 50%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then over a period of 2 weeks, once I got to the point where I went through it completely without missing at that level, I increased the percentage 15 more percent. Did it again. And then once I stopped missing again, increased it 50 more percent until the point where it was like after 2 weeks of doing it 4 or 5 times a day, that one number 4 or 5 times a day, after a couple weeks, it's like expert level. Yep. Kicking ass on it.
Yep. Got it.
And it's just one of those things. It's like progressive accomplishments work, starting things small. And it's one of these things that you try to teach your students, you try to teach your children. That's like, yes, you can't do that now.
Right.
But if we break it down into pieces and we go through it at a small pace and progressive pace, you will get there and you will wonder how you could never do it before. It'll be one of those things that you'll look
like
back.
It's natural. It feels natural.
And it happened. It was great. It was a big accomplishment for my son when he first started doing martial arts. And this was like, he's always liked school, but there's certain things he's shy about, and he likes being. There are certain things he was really good at, and so you like being good at something. So you only want to do the thing you're good at. When you're not good at it, you're like, I don't want to play that game. It's like, why? I suck. So, that's just what you are.
Yeah.
And so when he started doing martial arts, there were certain things he couldn't do. It's like he couldn't do a cartwheel. Of course he couldn't do a cartwheel. He was like a 6-year-old boy that didn't do a cartwheel. Yeah. And so he felt bad about it. But then after a while, he got better and better and better. And so and then I think it was 7, and I can't remember what it was that we were going to be doing. It was something in class. It was either for chorus or some like thing he was having to do. And I'm like, so are you going to do it? And he says, yeah, I'm going to do it. He says, I'm no good at it though. I'm really bad at it. I'm like, okay, you still going to do it? He goes, yeah. Because, I'm not good at it now, but I know if I keep going at it, I'll get better.
It was chorus. I remember this.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, that's, and I went to Peter, his Kung Fu teacher, I was like, just so you know, this is what happened, and I know it was directly associated with the fact that he had been watching himself progress. He couldn't do a front roll. He didn't do this type of kick. He couldn't do this. And then just keep doing it. Fail, better. Nailed it.
I think that's what it is. Instead of a fail, it is a better.
Yeah.
You can feel the difference.
Yeah.
So like again on Beat Saber, this would obviously this is going to be the title of this one, in which we discuss Beat Saber at length. a similar thing going through because okay, you and I like to analyze things. It's part of our joy to see something and say, well, that doesn't seem to make sense, or I wonder how that works. Or when you're doing something, you say, oh, this is what's actually happening right now.
Right.
And that happens a lot on Beat Saber, because when you were talking about trying to get through like a level that you couldn't do before, you know, I'll start a routine where I'll do a bunch of some of my favorites and so on and so forth. And then there's always this one, I can't remember the name of it, that I can never get through on expert. But I would do it anyway. And there's this thing that happens in your brain and your body. I don't know what the name of the concept is. There must be a name for it, but if you recognize it, you see it happening. And that is letting your brain work on something in the background.
Right.
Giving your brain permission to work on something in the background.
Right.
That's what it feels like, where either I can't get through the level or I can barely get through the level because there's that section in the middle that is just nuts. And really the only thing you need to do when you're first starting is hit enough of them so that it won't fail you.
Give you enough buffer. Yep.
And then yes, and give yourself enough buffer in the beginning, and then build up, you know, on some of the simple patterns before they get to another complicated one. And it's just fascinating to me to watch. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. It's so cool. My hands just move.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, you know,
it's
cool.
Called,
you know, at least in like in sparring and, you know, and things like that, it's letting your hands go. Just let your hands go. Just let them go. Stop. Just let them go.
Right.
And it's you know, yeah, whatever the biochemical thing is, but there's a disconnect of the conscious mind and just that lizard brain reflex or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you just let your hands go. You want it, it needs to be there. Let it go there. Stop trying to guide it there.
Yeah.
Let it go there.
And it is a really nice release, because there's one song, I really should find the name of it. If I find the name of it, it'll be in the comments or in the description below, guys. But there's this one that's on the Camellia thing. It's got these really complicated patterns that you have to get through, and then right towards the end there's this nice up of a music, and you know what second you hear that build up, you know what's coming, right? And there's this sequence that is just continuous. There's no breaks whatsoever. You're literally just following 16th notes, really. You're just like, and it's such an interesting feeling to know that your body's doing it, and I just sort of let go. It's really neat.
Right. Yeah, it's moving meditation. It's it's like a moving meditation.
Yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah. So
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's these are things we need to do for ourselves. Except it's so. Yeah, that's all.
And then maybe later, you guys, we need to move on from this, but Jerry, you and I should just like look at some of the other games that are on there that we know, and we'll give sort of reviews of them. Right. So right now, essentially what we're doing is saying, hey, everybody, get a VR, play Beat Saber.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll
and if you have one, tell us what you think about it.
Yeah.
Make suggestions. And this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't actually play a lot of like regular VR games in terms of like, I'm going to go do this exploring thing. And I tend to use it for exercise and things like that. Every so often, I'll do something that's more adventure, but I'll test it out.
I keep forgetting that I need to do that. Yeah. I got the new Star Wars game. I've never played it.
Oh, let me know how it is. I've been thinking.
Forget. Well, and honestly, it's because, well, we've been, I've been catching a friend up on Buffy and Angel.
Yeah.
And when that's in the wind, man, you just gotta go. I mean, I tried to stop there for a little bit because I was getting a bit upset. and Jerry knows why, but I'll just tell everybody that I have a complete suspension of disbelief. I mean, it's really heartbreaking sometimes how I will respond to things that aren't real. And I try to stop myself.
I was looking for a set of glasses to throw on real quick, just so you could be like, "Hey, where'd you go?"
Yeah, it's really bad. I will cry, and even though I know what's coming,
there's for when we can both watch the same thing. Like I'm a huge fan of the Buffy universe, Buffy Angel universe. But since I've seen it a bunch of times, and I still have the emotional attachment. I can appreciate it. I still love it. But the losses don't hit me. Because I've seen the episode before, but
right.
But for Bino, that person's dying.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like that person's dying, and on, I guess not completely. There is a space in which that exists. So, for instance, I don't mourn for months. But it hurts sometimes, especially when I don't know what's coming. And maybe it is now that I should bring up that it is something, my suspension of disbelief is something that entertains my friends. So for instance, when Jerry and his wife Robin invited me over, "Oh, you should just come over. It's the Doctor Who Christmas special. You haven't seen this one yet. It's awesome. You'll love it." Not telling me that it's when Tennant leaves the show. That is a hard regeneration to go through. And I'm sitting there on this chair going like, they're over here, and I'm going like this. And then I was just like, "Oh yeah, that was really cool. Oh, I'm so sad." And I got in the car and I bawled, man. I mean, I wailed crying. I was so sad. Well, come on, that's a hard regeneration. It
is. It is. It's a really tough one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, especially because really that was the Doctor Who that everybody,
Yeah, because he was at that point. He was there the longest. 9 wasn't there for very long. Eccleston, and so he was. He was there for a while. And even though technically it wasn't a whole lot of episodes, it was kind of spread out over several years. I mean, they did the whole last 2 years with only maybe there was 4 specials, but they were so it took a long time, even though technically it was kind of like 3 years, but it took 5 years, to get those last few episodes in. Yeah. So he was around for a while.
Mm. So on one of our videos at some point, I think we should probably sit down and be like, the things that hurt most about Doctor Who, because there's a lot of them. Dr. Donna, dude, I'm still not over that.
Well, one thing I was going to say, and people can, put this out there, maybe we'll stick something on the end, but, if people have questions about the things we like our favorite, what's your favorite X, or what's the moment in this genre that you remember the most, or
and if we haven't gotten to that,
what's that?
If we haven't gotten to it so that we can't answer the question, that could easily be a cue for us to watch it so that we could answer it. I mean,
there's
So
there's a handful of things that are always, if you were to say, "What's your favorite such and such?" I know what I'll answer to that, But there's some that, I'd be curious as to what people would ask.
Yeah. So speaking of which, didn't you say that there were some questions that you tagged for us to answer? Would this be a good segue for that?
Yes, some comments. Hold on, where's my document here? So first, right off the bat, a couple people are just, saying things are, some nice words to us, which is cool because, we always wonder if this stuff works.
Yeah.
So it's nice that a couple people are saying, "Hey,
Well, especially the second one, because that's something that, has made me anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be engaging at all?
Yeah.
We enjoy it.
Yes.
we've had people standing around us laughing and when we do this stuff, but it is nice to, for me specifically, because I'm afraid to be on camera, and here I am doing it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Let's see what else I have here. Oh, okay. So this one here is almost a call to action here. It says, I too will probably never watch the Fast and Furious. And if you put together a 20-minute summary of the whole series, much appreciated. So that might just be a task for me to put on the list. And I was just thinking, we might want to have, at some point, a little segment here and there of like, you're not going to watch it, so here it is. And
Right.
just just explains like heavy spoilers.
Yeah.
Here it is. This is the story.
Just like give them the Wikipedia breakdown.
Right.
But
with sound effects and voices. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this person, Fedos, asks, are either of you into Wheel of Time? If so, are you excited about the upcoming Amazon Prime show? Are you familiar with the Wheel of Time series?
I'm not.
Oh, because see, I looked it up and I'm not, but it seems like it's right in your wheelhouse. It's like a major fantasy series.
Okay.
It's like real magic based, and it looks like it has like 14 books.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
Got it. So this would be like the equivalent of a television show about Xanth.
Right. It's exactly.
Right. Like an extended series. Everybody loved it. Kept going.
And so so I'm curious about that.
I've not heard of it, but that sounds very interesting.
And he's assuming that you're looking forward to the Lord of the Rings show that's being produced.
Yes and no, but real first, let me comment that sometimes I'm not into things just because they're fantasy, like and I've heard good things about Witcher, but like just because it exists, and I saw the costumes, I would love it. I think the filming looked good, so it's just not, I don't know. It's just
I get that. No, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I tend to not be I tend to be a hard sci-fi person, not so much a magic person, a fantasy person. Even though I am of the mind that superheroes are fantasy, they're more pretty much just magic based. Right?
Yeah, but then what was that one? The Chronicles of Inara, something like that. A bunch of elven people. I tried to watch it, and I was just like, I can't do this. And I'm sorry if some of you enjoy that. I'm not like really bagging.
But that's the whole thing. Not everything is for everybody.
Yeah. In terms of the Lord of the Rings show, yes, I am looking forward to it because at the very least, I get to visit Middle Earth. Right?
Right.
This is the what we use for shorthand, the Alien v Predator.
Right.
But I do have a really big emotional attachment to it. So I want it to be really good. For instance, I watched The Hobbit because I wanted to go back to Middle Earth.
Right.
But I was really disappointed and really didn't like some of it.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's how it is.
How greedy they were to drag it out into 3 movies.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Just come on.
That was just greedy. But I understand exactly what you're saying.
If this turns into something like that, I'm not going to be happy. Am I going to enjoy seeing some characters? I don't even know what this one is about. I actually have not been keeping up on this. Is this supposed to be this? I think it's supposed to be like based on the Silmarillion.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I think. And that's a live wire, dude.
Mm-hmm.
To somebody who's a fan, touching the Silmarillion, you better handle it very carefully. Because
and so question is it being made because people are saying, hey, we have the technology now, let's strike while the iron's hot. It's still kind of, we can ride the coattails of the past production, right. Or has somebody shown up with a real vision of what they want to do?
Right. And I guess that, when it comes to a lot of the shows of things that we enjoy. So in other words, me addressing these things in Lord of the Rings doesn't mean it's just specific to Lord of the Rings, because like Preacher, I was really concerned they wouldn't handle it right. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know if they did or not, because I watched the first season, which I wasn't able to finish it.
I need to go back and finish it. I'm a huge Preacher fan.
Yeah, me too.
I wasn't
mind-blowing book. Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I watched the first uh season, and it had nothing to do with the book,
Yeah,
but
it was a lot of pre-story stuff.
pre-story stuff, which isn't in the book.
Right.
But I was okay with it.
Hmm.
Now, so here's what I'm talking about, because that brings up another point. So when it comes to the Preacher books, um, by that first season, they had kind of changed how some of the characters would work.
Right.
Right. I guess in the beginning we'll put spoilers for Preacher series, but
Well, only
Arseface,
to a certain degree because we
yeah,
didn't watch the whole thing.
right? No, but just to say that Arseface is in hell. How do you start the book with that notion? He's so integral to above ground things that I don't know how, and that sort of just like twisted me off of it.
Right.
Right. It was something like, so going back to the Lord of the Rings, if they start creating things that don't belong there, that's what I didn't like about the Hobbit so much. It's like, no, that's not even the flavor. It wasn't the right flavor. Does that make sense when I mean that?
No, yeah, yeah.
So so I think that's going to be very careful.
But they can take advantage of the fact that you want to go back to Middle Earth.
Yes.
And that's the problem. Are they taking, so it all depends on what their approach is. Are they taking advantage of the fact that they have this established fan base that they can exploit?
Right.
Or are they really looking at, exploring what's there or their true interpretation of what's there?
Right.
Because sometimes you have to take things, you're like, okay, we have to assume that some people are new, so we need to lay some groundwork.
Right.
Which is what I think they were doing with Preacher by going beforehand.
Right.
Which
right. Because
I don't
when
think
you
was
think
necessary.
about, because when I throw my head back to the books, the introduction of Jesse, it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And that whole system, it's pretty fast.
Right.
I personally think that would have been perfectly fine to do.
Right.
But I understood what they were trying to do. Let's get people invested in him instead of just, because in the books you're seeing all these different visuals and pictures, and it just, I don't know, you know what I mean. The time works differently in comic books.
Right.
Because you can hold your own thought on one frame and think about it for a while. If you know what I mean. But then what you were just mentioning about whether they're just going to pander to people who just want to go back to Middle Earth. That's the feeling that we've gotten every single time a new Star Trek system or series has come out, right?
Right.
Like, oh God. Especially with some of the original movies,
Right. Right.
Search for Spock and afterwards is like, oh, yeah.
Right.
Right. Like, yeah, okay, we get it. But then luckily the fans got a hold of it, and the people behind the camera and writing, they're fans. You can tell because they're progressing things as they should. Yes, they're pushing the envelope on some things.
Right.
But that can be fun. For instance, Deep Space Nine going back to the Enterprise.
Right. Yeah.
That was just fun.
That was just fun.
Didn't really interfere with anything.
Right.
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 So
speaking of Trek, you don't have, someone mentions it in a comment. I don't think I pulled it because I responded to it, but and a suggestion on another video of mine, Star Trek Lower Decks, which is an animated series on CBS. And it is
nailing it right there.
What's the hell?
Oh God.
It's an animated series on CBS. What do they call it? CBS All Access.
All Access.
Which I have because of Twilight Zone or because of Star Trek.
And I haven't watched that series yet. And that's bizarre to me.
Discovery.
Yeah.
Or Discovery's. I love Discovery. It got a lot of heat for not being Trek because people were You know, spoiler talk about this a little bit, not much, but people were saying, you know, it's like that's not how a captain would act, and that's not how they would do these things, and they were all done for a reason. That if you
Right.
would have waited 3 episodes, you would have understood what the reason was.
Right.
But there
Right.
was
I
this
do know. Don't spoil some of it
yeah,
to me because I
yeah,
haven't watched it.
yeah, exactly.
I
That's what I'm
do
saying.
understand that some things like really fell
Yeah,
into place. I
but
do.
there was this, you know, there was this all the SJWs, and it's all about this, and you know, because you know, once you have a woman in, you know, in a prominent role, even though she's not captain,
I
uh,
know.
it's, you know, it brings out the woodwork, and it's a woman of color and all that kind of thing. But
Which
honestly,
always was
it's the
an
most
issue.
emotional Star Trek of any Star Trek ever. Not
Really?
necessarily for the not for the viewer, but for the like amount of screen time taken up by people crying.
Got it. Got it.
Like, and they got actors that can do it. I mean,
Right.
you know, like on Buffy, where you say like, oh, you get Willow and Buffy, people who like cut their teeth on doing soap operas. They know how to cry on a dime,
Yeah.
you know. And so people who are just like to look at you, you know, and all the wet wells up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Discovery's full of that.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah. The Buffy look. There's a Buffy look. You know it. If you watch Buffy, there's a Buffy look. Sometimes it's actually a little bit too much, but I still love it.
Right.
And then, of course, Willow exists, at least early on, for us to cry.
Right. To us to, yeah, us to worry
Because
about
when
somebody.
she's in danger, it feels bad.
Right.
Yeah. And then later Dawn.
But Lower Decks
Right.
is an animated series that is about the not the people who are like at the top. These are like the people, the ensigns, and the people on the lower decks that they never deal with. And it's just
That are
about
getting
them.
killed while the
Yeah.
people up top are making
Right.
hard decisions. Yeah.
Right, making decisions, and they have to deal with the ramifications of those decisions and all that kind of stuff. It's freaking hilarious, and it's
Okay.
also very canon. I mean, I don't know if they're calling it canon, but things are happening. I think it's post Picard, or it might be somewhere after Deep Space Nine, but still kind of in that timeline, like closer to that age. You know, maybe
And you
a few
know that
years
because
longer.
of the enemies they're facing?
Yeah, and the reference, well, yeah, it's sometimes it's not as far forward as say Discovery, but it's not like right with Deep Space Nine. They talk about, oh, when when Picard did that, but they will talk about Captain Kirk being way back then. You know, so
Okay. All
you know
right. Yeah.
they're more, you know, more current with their comments. Uh, but no, it's hilarious, and it's also it deals with, you know, decent, you know, kind of Trek tropes. In a decent way, where you know they're having to go off and do something. It's like, why are they asking us to do what? You know, it's like, why do we have
Right.
to do
Why
this?
do we have to do this?
Yeah,
Right. Like,
but
why did they consider? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can almost write it, but
mhm,
I'm looking forward
yeah,
to watching it. Yeah. I
yeah,
would love
and
to.
it does have one of, you know, it does have a great exchange where there's a character who's, I mean, it's an animated show, so it's not like it's a spoilers matter that much, but where there's this character that is trying to ascend through like this religious practice, you know, become one with the universe type of thing.
Got it.
And you know, and it's this whole basic sitcom type of thing where it's like, ah, I was faking it just to get the attention, blah 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 blah. But then he actually does ascend, and
Right.
it does not work out the way he wanted. It's just,
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to.
it's just awesome. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, that's a good way of that's a good take on ascending. He just, you know, just the way it affects him, and it's just hilariously done. They also go back to the what's it, the green aliens that were always like the one that like Kirk slept with, and
Oh, yeah.
you know, they were always a slave race or pirates or whatever like that. They
Hmm.
actually like bring them out of that. It's like
Okay.
sometime, so it's a little bit after the Deep Space Nine stuff that they've gotten away from that. So there's like a character who's actually of those people, and she's like, we don't do that anymore. Stop referring to us like that. Yeah,
Right.
and then the big bad in season 3 of Discovery is of that Orions, I think,
Yeah.
and she's like, yeah, you know, our people used to have to do things, you know, in order to, you know, to get by in this world, in this universe. we're not doing that anymore. We're taking shit over, And so she's like this. She's like a big bad. But it's like, oh yeah, it's a green chick, but she is not slave girl,
She's not a slave girl.
And so that it's one of those things where it's like, okay, good. Let's get away from there being a race of people that are always prostitutes and slaves.
And Star Wars does that too.
Yeah.
There's a race. I can't remember what they're called now. You know what I'm talking about. They're the ones with the two head.
The tentacle type things, yeah.
Tentacle things, yeah.
Yeah. They just in the latest Mandalorian spoilers.
Yeah, okay, Mandalorian spoilers.
We're gonna have Mandalorian spoilers. But in the latest, like the very last minutes of the last episode of Mandalorian, when they did that cutscene at the end, there was the slave girl that was hooked up to what was
right at that part of the end. Yeah, exactly. And she was still hooked up.
Right.
Was she supposed to be the same woman? I'm assuming?
I don't know. It was supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think. My brain has been like trying to scour here as we're talking. There's another pop culture thing that we watch where there are way too many slaves in their universe, and people are not doing things about it. It might be
Firefly.
Firefly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's Firefly. There are way too many slaves in Firefly.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's the nature of, but I mean, it makes sense given that there are all these colonized planets and you have these corporate, kind of this whole kind of corporate versus, the big person, little person. Yeah. So there's a lot of indentured servants and a lot of enslaved people.
Yeah. And sometimes,
because it's frontier. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you see those the people that represent the corporate interests and so on and so forth, talk about their own slaves. But even some of the pioneers have them. It's just like,
yes.
Ugh. I don't know. It's always been a hard thing for me to choke down watching that show.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that is actually kind of the dark side of like frontierness, is that people do that. They faction themselves and do that to each other. It's not Star Trek, where the Federation has cleaned that stuff out of itself.
Right.
So because that's the whole thing is like they were spreading like whatever the utopian, that's what they're spreading. We achieved it, and then they're taking this to new places. While this was just like, yeah, we expanded. It's basically a big corporate expansion,
right?
And you're all just left to yourselves, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's not a fun thing to watch. I mean, there are some things in there that that bug me.
Yeah. Well, and I think at one point they do fight somebody who's bragging about his slave sort of thing. So they address it.
Yeah.
But to me, it almost just seems like, because here's a series that's filled with heroes. Right. We're watching our heroes do things, and they're complicated things.
They're rogue. They're flawed people. Yes,
they're rogue and flawed. Yeah, but I'm sure none of them would support slavery. I can't even remember if some of them were in, but they wouldn't. So in other words, it seems like to me that if you just take the main characters from Firefly, it just feels like to me that if they discovered a place that had slaves, the rest of the series would be about them trying to free them.
To a certain degree, but
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how could they?
Right. How do you walk away from that?
How do you walk away from it? Is what was really the weird thing.
Right.
Like, there are slaves on this planet that you're at.
Right.
And you're going to have your little adventure, and you're going to do some good things, but then you're going to walk away from pure suffering. Ugh.
Yeah. And that's where the kind of the suspension of disbelief, where it's the conceit of a show, is there's a inconsistency that you have to allow for, or that does become the point of the show, right? It's like you either allow this inconsistency, these monsters of the week, these little things that happen, or
Right.
it becomes about, it's like, cause yeah, because once you bring that thing in, you go, okay, what do we do? How does Mal leave this planet?
Yeah.
How does the preacher, how does Book let that happen?
Yeah, see, Book would be the one that I would just see, like, and that was another part of it, not even walking away, but it almost seems like to me, at least it should have been written in that Mal has to like reel Book in,
Mhm.
you know, because he'd be so upset about this, and we need to do something, and take the opportunity to say, this is not our job.
Right,
I see. I can see how that would have flopped.
right. Yeah,
That wouldn't have done anything
yeah.
for me.
It's
That would have made me feel worse about Mal. So,
and as a creator, you have to, I'm sure there's the writers' room is full of people saying, where do we go with this, and how do we solve this and move on? And sometimes the best way to solve it is to not address it and just move on.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I know that Joss likes to challenge himself and his writers. So I can see
I
why there was
mean,
a lot of complicatedness. And they
oh
only
yeah,
had
I
one
mean, come on,
season,
that's not even getting
there could
into.
have
I'm
been
not going to get
two
into it because they don't have time.
yeah.
But Dollhouse was the most complicated show he made.
Most
No,
uncomplicated?
it's the most complicated one. I stuttered on
Right.
that one there. In terms of like when he made it, he was like, "I'm creating evil.
Right.
This is evil," and and so then he had to try to write himself out of being in this
Out
world.
of being evil. Yeah.
But it's like, no, it was straight evil. It's like, no, these are enslaved, prostituted people. These people, it was a horrible, kind of premise.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like slaves plus.
yeah, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But that's an itch, as a creative, you're like, okay, it's an adventure. We're going to try to do this, and
Right.
to a certain degree, that's probably why it didn't work. But
Yeah, and I've always respected his writing
yeah.
for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
No, it doesn't always work.
We just argued about some of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I get
No,
it.
it doesn't always. I mean, heck, one of my favorite episode of, we're all over the place, but who cares? One of my favorite episodes of Firefly is also has my biggest issue. Has one of my biggest, and that's that last episode with Jubal Early,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who's the bounty hunter who's just like whacked out,
Whack job.
really interesting. I mean, just one of those things where you go, okay, I want to just watch this guy go through a day. I just want to keep watching this guy because you have
so
no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, he was so perfectly written. It was such a shame.
Right.
Well,
and
it wasn't a shame how that ended,
right?
But
because it could also
it made sense, and
it made sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a classic black sexual predator trope in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and when I watched that episode, when it was first started, I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" This is kind of, and I remember, I think it was 10, 15 minutes into the episode, my heart just broke just for a second because, he had to threaten to rape someone.
Yeah.
That was his big threat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just such, a tired, horrible, threatening black man trope that's used.
Yeah.
That it took me away from a second, and it's not necessarily that people are conscious about it. That's the thing. I don't think people are saying, "Oh, it's a black person," but it's just one of those things. It's like, how do you make this person more threatening? And it's like, oh, we're going to have him threaten to rape the most vulnerable person in the cast, and that just tends to, and it's one of those things that happens with
Right.
black characters, and it reminds me of one of the few times that I openly just yelled like, "Fuck you" to a movie screen, and it was the movie Cliffhanger. See, I still remember this. It was the movie Cliffhanger, which was a Sylvester Stallone comeback movie. He hadn't done anything for a while.
Yep.
And so, he's like the cliff, hiking instructor or whatever, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, then his wife gets kidnapped and there's this heist thing, whatever. And so they get to one of the culminating like hand-to-hand combat battles between him and this classic character actor, black guy with kind of dreads, and he was just like he'd been around. He'd been a bad guy in a whole bunch of different shows. And so they're doing the hand-to-hand combat thing, and Stallone's mostly getting his butt kicked because he's trying to say, that I'm older as an actor. Things aren't supposed to be easy for me anymore. So he's struggling with it, and he's getting his butt kicked, just really getting whooped on. And then the guy, as he's standing over him, about to knife him, he threatens. He says, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to go take your woman. And he, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he says basically, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to rape a woman. And of course, that's when Stallone gets and he comes back. But when he said that, I literally just like, fuck you, just yelled at the screen because that was not necessary. It was just not necessary for him to. In order to really give him the inspiration to come back from this ass whooping, we're going to have this guy threaten to rape his wife.
And that's like what's going to.
And I probably wouldn't have yelled at the screen so much if they hadn't also done it in Rocky 3 by having Mr. T say that he was gonna that after he took out Rocky, he was going to pay his wife a visit so she can see what a real man is like. It's like, what is it about? So that was just one of those things. I was just like, fuck you, just what? Don't do it. Yeah. And I know people think it's like, you're overly sensitive about these things. It's like, no, these things happen. And when they happen on a regular basis, you go, come on. And I don't think it's necessarily a conscious thing, but it's just one of these things that is part of our culture that we attribute to, certain characters. It's just what we do. Let's not talk about the fact that if you watch a lot of shows, even all the Joss shows, again, it's like I said, it's not that I think Joss is racist or anything like that. It's just he's of this culture, and so these things are in him. Mm-hmm. Nearly every black character is from a broken home.
Yeah.
That's just, it's just, they are. Either by choice or by something, they're from a broken home.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, okay, you were sold, you were sent off to be a slayer. It's okay, you have no family. Your mom was killed by Spike. You have no family.
Right.
It's like, that happens constantly in things all the time.
Even with Gunn.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah. And this is the show I love. This is the shows I love.
Yeah.
Which is why those little moments are disappointing to me. Mm-hmm. But it happens everywhere. It's these things that just, and women are more sensitive to things that they notice. Like I don't, things that pass me by that I don't even notice. They go, did you notice that just happened? It's like, no, I didn't. But yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, because I'm trying to think of something that would bother me. I mean, yeah, some of the writing bothers me when they put a white stereotype in. But I think it's an entirely different feeling. It's not that I think like, oh, why are they stereotyping a white guy? It's, oh God, that really is what a white guy's like. You know what I mean?
Okay, pause for a sec. Can you recenter yourself?
Yeah,
you're getting a little low.
I'm kind of crooked.
Yeah, and you're getting a little low there.
I was crossing my legs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but you seem like you have more space above your head now. Like, I don't know, the camera tilted down or something? No,
I'm just relaxing a little.
Oh, okay. I'm shrinking.
Yeah, I was just relaxing.
All right, okay. Okay, cool. Because it's one of those things, if I just leave it there, you're going to slowly get down there. So, yep. Okay, cool. Okay. But yeah, I can see that. But sometimes there are, they're just like, why does that white guy have to this?
Yeah. Yeah. But only in terms of lazy writing.
Right, in terms of.
But I'm saying that when I see a white man portrayed in a stereotypical fashion, my instinct isn't in the same way that you wouldn't like to see a black man written in a stereotypical way.
Right,
is not the same way I feel. I just feel like, oh shit, that's right.
Yeah, and I think there's also,
oh God, we have a long way to go.
I think just to be annoying. I'm going to wrap this back to like what you were saying about Beat Saber.
Okay.
In terms of you have to like have enough like streaks of good.
Yeah.
so that when these negatives happen, they don't take you out of it.
Right.
And so like the straight white guy has been like the hero. Everything's been like super positive for a long time.
Right.
Like they're always the star of the show. They're the
Right.
star of the show. They get the girl, this and that. So they got a long bit. They got a long streak of positive. So when these hits happen, it's like, that sucked. The stereotypes happen. It's like, yeah, that sucked, but you're still way in the positive. It's going to be a long time before.
Those aren't even the kind that I'm talking about.
But for black folks, we have, we're way down here in terms of, it's like, oh man, we were always the criminal, always the pimp, always the guy who got it, that left his kids or was beating his wife. And now we're starting to be heroes. And now we're starting to this, but he's still from a broken family. We're not, because we're still
and
feeling.
this was why I suspect the trope of the magical Negro. Is that what they?
Yeah, magical Negro.
Yeah, because it was like, white writers. Let's just be honest, saying like, well, let's make a positive black man character,
right?
And that's what happened,
right?
Is that why that was annoying when that occurred?
Well, yeah,
it's like, you're so close.
Well, what's also, and for example, did you see Soul, Pixar's Soul?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, it was on my list of things. Great movie, excellent movie, loved it. But it was kind of close to hitting a magical Negro thing. And so there'll be gentle spoilers on here because you haven't seen it. Out of respect for you, I'm not going to say things. But there's a thing that happens that people have noticed over time, that particularly in Disney movies, but in these animated movies, if a black person is the major character, they don't stay black for long. So, for example, the Princess and the Frog, 20 minutes in, she turns into a frog.
Got it.
Okay. And let's see. It just happens. Just one of these things.
By the way, I haven't seen that movie, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, and you know why, but I didn't.
So in this one, you've seen the trailer. It turns into the blobby, in the trailer. They turn into these like amorphous people. The main character.
For Soul.
Yeah, in Soul.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's in all the. I'm not spoil. It's in all the advertisements and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen the preview.
But so that happens, but it doesn't happen. It happens fairly soon. But it's not a consistent thing. But there are other things in it where he's interacting with another character, which almost pushed it. If they had gone with the original ending that I heard that they were planning on doing, I would have been out of the movie at the last minute. I would have been, fuck this movie. It's just one of those things. So the thing that makes them magical Negro is not just like, it's also that their job is to improve the life of a white person.
Right.
That's the thing. And so this one, Soul, was great. I mean, just gorgeous, just on so many levels, just the textures, the character design, the use of like depth of field in terms of focus, smoky rooms. There's like jazz club stuff going on, and you go in there and you're just like, what the hell? This thing is goddamn gorgeous. Not like realistic. I mean, there's the stuff that's real, like, wow, that's water, and that they've gotten really good at it. But the character designs aren't realistic. They're caricatures. But they're like really stylized, but still the textures on them are great. And then they put them in these scenes where the lighting is just hyper realistic. It's just like, this is a jazz club. Like, if you go into a jazz club, you take the right drugs or whatever, this turns into like the ultimate jazz club.
Or speaking of caricatures, right? Caricatures work because that's how we actually see them in our mind.
Right.
So this would be a memory of a jazz club.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
The angle is just right. So they look that kind of dynamic shot, and the coolness when they're looking at you, when they're playing their instrument, and then the smoky lighting, and then the depth of field, and the out of focus people in the front, and then all this kind of stuff is just like
my cat,
excellently done. But at the same time, they were dangerously close to having magical Negro moment. But they dodged it for me. But
Okay, good.
yeah, but it's still gorgeous, gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at the time, but apparently like the school band, that's in the show. It was a school band from my son's middle school. It's the Edna Brewer middle school band.
That plays in it.
Yeah, because the guy plays the main character is a band teacher,
Got it.
and so he's got a middle school band, and they used the middle school band of and it was filmed a few years ago, so it was like the kids who were in the middle school band. A couple of them I chaperoned when they went to DC. I'm like, that guy, little punk. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like I saw an interview with him on the news. I'm like, oh, little punk was in that movie. Well, good for him. But he was one of these.
You know what? That reminds me of
Looks really good to the adults, but is like a little shit.
Yeah. That reminds me of an interesting thing that used to happen to me. I teach summer camps for a small city called Piedmont, which is one of the richest pieces of real estate around. And it's like literally across the street from his house, and yeah, just up the street. And when you like, you can tell where Piedmont starts because the road gets better.
Yeah,
it does. Like, right, you can see the line. Remember when they did that?
Yeah. It's like they were coming to fix the road. This hill,
and they just stop.
And it goes from Oakland on this side to the top of the hill where it's Piedmont, and then back down to Oakland on the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
And they came out and fixed the road from there to there. It's like, it's Piedmont.
Like, oh, okay. But the interesting thing that happened was teaching in this place. There's a few buildings that you can do it. There's a little rec center. Sometimes I taught at the high school in their theater and so on and so forth. And it was around that time that one of my assistants that was working for me, her friend would come and hang out towards the end of my summer camp to pick up the kids that he was babysitting. He was their babysitter. And so he'd hang around, and he was nice kid. And then one day my assistant told me, she goes, "You know who that is, right?" And I said, "No." She goes, "Yeah, that's Russell. Is that his name? What's the character's name? The little boy in Up."
Oh yeah, Russell. Yeah,
Russell. She goes, "That's him. That's Russell." I say, "What?" She goes, "Yeah. Just go look, and you'll see pictures of him."
Russell from
that character is based on him, because his father worked for Pixar or something, right, which is also down the street from us to a degree. I thought that was always a funny one. I was like, "That's Russell," and then once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee
because he was grown.
Yeah.
But yeah,
did you have that moment where you were? Did you have that moment
down,
where you were looking at him and he looked at you and went, "Yeah." He realized that's why you were looking at him. Yes, it's me.
Yeah. No, luckily I didn't let on.
Okay.
Because well, because I know teenagers and you don't want to embarrass them. So
right.
He's probably gotten it enough.
Right.
Yeah. He'll be on some, 50th anniversary of Up. He'll be interviewed. That'll be his role again in the.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there are walking versions of him at Disneyland. That's just got to be weird.
Oh my God! I hope he went and got a picture with one. Just because, come on, right?
Yeah.
And his name is Russell, by the way.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, his name is actually Russell. That was his name. So what's so funny is here we are talking about all this stuff, and this is kind of what we do. We just go off, but we came here to talk about WandaVision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, hey,
that was what we came here to do.
Yeah. Came here to talk about WandaVision, but also it's been a busy week, so I haven't actually talked to you this week. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And the way things work, I just for people to know that we, in order to try to make sure we still talk to each other on a regular basis during all this stuff, is that we have just a Zoom room that we have, a little ongoing meeting that if I'm just sitting at my desk working and there's no ongoing meetings that I have to be on or whatever, I'll just open up the room and just continue my work during the day. And if he's
And then he lets
available,
me know.
he opens up, he just pops in, and we work as if we're just at desks next to each other.
But we are really distracting to each other.
But we tend to be distracting.
We have not learned how to get more stuff done. I think the last
I still
time
get,
we did this,
I
you
get
actually were
work
getting
done,
you
but
were
I make
getting
sure
stuff
it's
done.
I make sure it's work that's not pressing for time if I do it.
Yeah. Because but I've got a lot of projects on board.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff we're talking about, technically it's work.
Yeah. No, and a lot of my job is sometimes can be busy work. It's like, okay, what you're doing is you're changing all these little illustrations and exporting them to do this such and such, and you're doing all blah 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 blah. It's just one of these things. It's like I have to do the same thing 100 times in just different ways. I don't even need to use my brain that much anymore because I've already made the palette of colors I need to switch to. I don't need to think anymore. I just need to work. And so,
I was just thinking just now, like, what kind of work could I get done? I mean, obviously, if I'm working with my hands, you guys can't. You can almost tell if I move my head to it. I'm in my little tiny workshop, a little sewing table. Oh, you can see my sewing machine almost there. Anyway,
try to move real fast to make it show up.
Yeah. So yeah, I can work on stuff, painting and that sort of thing. Obviously, I can get done when we're in those meetings. But I'm wondering if some of the best scripts I've ever written were sitting across from Warren, a friend of ours, Warren.
Mm-hmm.
So that and then he was drawing and I was typing, and then I was able to stop. When you get those points when you're writing a script and you're like, does this make sense? Or what tended to happen is that it was almost like I was writing to amuse him, so that I knew that if every once in a while I'd go, oh my God, dude, listen to this. And he would laugh, and then I'd get a boost and I could continue on, because there's a script that I need to write that I have not begun.
Oh yeah.
And I need to write it.
Yeah. Let's get it done.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I did get, this is nothing to do with anybody, anything, but I did find that script that I was missing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to send that to you.
All right, excellent. But yes, WandaVision.
And here we go again. Did you hear us? That's what happens. That's exactly what happens.
WandaVision. WandaVision. Okay, real quick summary. WandaVision is the new sitcom from that's takes place in the MCU. That's a continuation of the story of Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, and Vision, who died during Infinity War. And yeah, it's a canon show. It's the first one launched, of the MCU inside from the Disney Plus platform. And real quick, just first impressions. There were 2 episodes. There were 2 episodes yesterday.
We watched them
and
back
there'll be one every week for the next 7 weeks.
All right, okay. So before first impressions, one thing that I want to know, because it could inform me, is I know this is canon based on the events that happened in Infinity War, but I also know there was a thing. Wasn't there a comic book? See, out of this stuff I don't know. Wasn't there a comic book called WandaVision?
It was Vision and Scarlet Witch, I think.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
can't remember.
They're going to throw back to some of that, right? Because I remember there was an aspect that I was seeing in the background as I'm not reading it, but you know how these things float in front of our eyes, that there was this Leave It to Beaver feel to some of it, like trying to be a normal family.
Yes. Yeah.
So they are going to throw back to some of that, but maybe just the concept. So as this goes along, I would love to see where this touches.
Yeah, I have to go back and read it.
And how.
Yeah, I have to go back and read. It's been, because that was several years ago.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to read it.
Yeah.
But so okay, first impression, spooky, because I know something's wrong.
Right.
And the way they hit that something's wrong were nice reveals that gave you questions, and I love that feeling. So that was really kind of fun to watch. And because this is going to be in such a long form, I think those reveals are going to move differently. I saw the preview, so I kind of know how this is going to progress.
There are notes they're going to get hit because you saw they showed them in the trailer.
I saw it in there,
right.
So I kind of went in understanding. Whereas, if I had not seen that and I was going to see WandaVision, it might have been more effective to go, "What the hell is this?"
Mm-hmm.
Because it's funny because the notes they were trying to hit there were many and varied, and I thought it was interesting that they did it because they put the Dick Van Dyke Show set with I Love Lucy camera quality.
Mm-hmm. That first episode,
in the first episode. And there was another one. It was I wrote it down. No, 3 different styles. So I don't think Leave It to Beaver, because that's more about the child.
Right.
But there was a third show that I said, oh, they're referencing this too, and I can't remember.
Well, there's definitely Bewitched.
Bewitched. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Bewitched.
Yeah.
Right. Which I thought, I don't know why I put candy in my mouth just now, but I did. And I don't know why. Okay. It's obvious why they referenced it, because she's a witch.
Right.
Or it's called the witch.
Right. She has magical powers. Yes.
But it came in too soon.
You think so?
I do. Because but there's no way around it.
Yeah.
They had to embrace it because that's what she is.
Right.
But the era for Bewitched was wrong. The look of it was wrong. I did enjoy.
They got more toward Bewitched when they got to the second episode.
They did.
Yeah.
With the boss. But that was the first episode.
But in terms of moving eras wise, so they had a Bewitched like character, a couple of them, because Catherine Hahn, who's just awesome, the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
I love her and everything she does. I mean, she's totally Gladys Kravitz from Bewitched. She's like the neighbor. But so I mean, she was in there too. But yeah, so the first episode was really in terms of stylistically, it was the I Love Lucy Dick Van Dyke Show. But they had Bewitched characters in there.
But they had Bewitched characters in there.
Yeah. But then the second episode was more Bewitched stylistically. One, they took it outside. You started seeing a little more, some more scope, and that's what that's.
And the color got bright. I think what they're doing, just first impressions, totally impressed with the quality.
Right.
And I don't know if it was their intention, but I felt that it worked. That when she blunk out, of it, that the camera angles and the color became more modern just for those scenes.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. And I don't know if that was just because they needed a close-up shot, because that's something new. You don't see close-up shots like that,
right?
At striking angles, like when she found the helicopter, for instance.
Right. Well, yeah, and you did, but not. That was more. You saw those type of things on Twilight Zone and Outer Limits. Those were more Twilight Zone out. Twilight Zone Outer Limits gave you those things.
Right.
So it was a mix. You had the still camera thing going on, but when they got weird, when they moved into Twilight Zone Outer Limits.
I did not pick up on that, but I see it
type of thing.
Totally.
It was a trip. But what I did like also, in terms of when she came out of it, sometimes a couple times they didn't when they first. In the first episode, when they asked about their history, they were asked about it, and then they had a hard time with it, right? They didn't immediately focus on her not being, her kind of coming out of it. They kept the wide shot where you had your the person that was sitting here, person here, vision here, and her here, kind of small, just kind of looking toward the camera, And so even though she wasn't big, it drew you into her because she was
Mhm.
almost looking right at you, but not expressing anything. And it was
Mhm.
just a really good way of kind of minimizing it, yet at the same time giving it a better sense of dread
And
because
that's
she's not
yeah,
supposed
because
to be
that's the
looking at you.
spookiness.
Yeah,
That's the spookiness I'm
yeah,
talking about. And I really enjoyed it.
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Now, um, the things I was able to pick up from outside interference,
Okay,
right? There are at least two different logos that I am not familiar with.
okay. Which ones?
One is on the helicopter,
Sword?
the toy helicopter. Yeah, the circle with the sword.
Yep.
And then there's another logo on the back of the beekeeper.
Yeah, I didn't see what the logo is, but the beekeeper. Okay, so first sword. Sword is like the space version of Shield. I don't know if they're gonna. It basically in the last, was it Spider-Man? When was it when Nick Fury was on the spaceship at the end? Cap.
Oh,
What was that? Was that Spider-Man?
I think it was.
So that was like Sword was supposed to be like them watching aliens. That's originally it was like there was Shield, which was about like what taking care of like security on Earth, and Sword was like other extraterrestrial beings coming to Earth.
Right. So it was the natural formation of or extension of Shield once we really understood that there were aliens.
Yeah. So
That
yeah,
was the protective force
there's
that
the
they
shield and the sword, right? And so whether or not it represents the same thing here, we originally thought it was going to be about aliens, but it might just be about super weapons,
right.
super weapon something something, whatever.
Right.
So that was sword, and then the beekeeper. I don't remember what the logo was. Do you remember what it looked like?
It was like a circle and it had
Because I could look it up, but
like
but
almost like a oh, that didn't work.
okay,
You know what I mean? It
because
had it wasn't
because there's an organization uh in the Marvel universe, and I think they mentioned it briefly in like Iron Man 2, I think, and it was Advanced Idea Mechanics, AIM, right?
Mhm.
And I think they mentioned it in Iron Man 2, but the outfits they wore were
Mhm.
basically like yellow beekeeper outfits.
Advanced what?
Idea
Uh-huh.
Mechanics, I think,
Okay.
AIM,
Uh, I'm gonna put logo in. Oh
yeah,
my god, yeah. They
yeah.
look exactly like beekeepers.
Yeah, except for they had like more
They're
taller things.
square.
Right.
Huh.
Um,
I'm
so
putting logo so that I can see what
yeah,
that
I don't
looks
know.
like.
I can't. I think their logo was just like an A, something. So they
No,
might be
it's
doing
just
so.
literally their name. That's
Yeah.
it.
So when I see the beekeeper outfit, so I see that being maybe whatever situation she's really in had to do with people in the AIM outfits, but that makes no sense to her. So her brain's processing it as like a beekeeper outfit, you know.
Okay.
And so
Now,
this thing's
AIM
showing
is
up,
a
and she's like,
are
"No, I
they
don't want to deal with that," and she rewinds things.
yeah. So and that was an interesting thing here because okay, well first of all, uh AIM is our bad guys.
Yeah, they're bad guys. They were like
Okay.
they were Iron Man bad guys. They were like,
Okay.
you know, anti Stark people.
Okay. All right. So
They were pure science. We don't, it's like one of those things like, oh, we don't care about like human testing. We'll do testing on anybody as long as we get to what we need to get to.
right, okay.
Whatever idea, we'll
They
do
were
it.
the unethical science
Yeah,
organization.
yeah,
So so her disguising or her maybe seeing them as beekeepers because that's what her psyche is telling her to do
right.
as either just to explain it to herself or to protect herself, I don't know which. Her rewinding was the thing that screwed me up a little bit because going into this I thought this is Wanda in a schizo break.
Hmm.
She couldn't handle Vision's death and she finally went mad. And this is the consequences. And now we're going to see her move out of this thing. But then the voices
Hmm.
asking, Wanda, who is doing this to you,
Right.
that I flipped and I said, okay, somebody has control of Wanda.
Right.
So what is that? So the
we
second
tie
she
it.
was able to rewind, I thought, well, no, it's her then.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on.
You got so we have to assume that the very end of the first episode, where someone is watching this on a TV and taking notes,
Yeah,
is a real thing. Because at first it could have just been like a throwaway kind of thing, you know.
right.
Right. But you had that TV, you know, the show. They kind of pull back and you watch someone watching it on TV, taking notes and clicking. Now, according to the credits, the person who's doing that voice was Randall Park.
Okay.
Randall Park has been. I was like, oh, it was Randall Park. Oh, well, Randall Park was an FBI agent in Ant-Man and the Wasp. He's a former SHIELD agent that became an FBI agent.
Got it.
Ant-Man and Wasp. So okay, and they don't do weird casting like that unless he's Jimmy Woo. He is Jimmy Woo.
That character
with the FBI, or maybe he's with Sword. Maybe he went from being SHIELD to being FBI to Sword.
Got it.
And so that ties it to, you know, to some other organization.
Got it.
So that's once I learned that's who that was, because it's in the credits. It's like, okay, all right. So someone is trying to break through. Yeah. So either someone has a hold of her and is trying to probe her for information and put scenarios in her head and watch how she works them out so they can pull, you know, whatever, you know.
Which is what AIM would do, right?
Yeah.
AIM would capture somebody with these powers and put them through a situation to see what comes out of it.
Right.
That's what they would do.
That's what they would do. Yeah,
so that is my assumption then, and I will go back and look, as I'm sure you will. My assumption is then that's an AIM.
That's my assumption at the moment. Yeah, that's an AIM thing.
Yeah. So what do you think? All right, just like throw it out there. What do you think is happening? Like what you before you even started watching the show, you were like, oh, this must be this. What was your first thought?
Well, no, before I started watching the show, I was completely of the like in the comics when her and the Vision had some kids, and I can't remember how, but they were killed. She broke, right? And so she recreated a whole universe. It was the House of M series, where she kind of brought him back. She just made a new universe where they were still alive.
Got it. I do.
Which I saw online that apparently one of the wine bottles actually says House of something, but starts with an M in French.
Ooh, the wine.
So my original thought was, okay, she had a break and she's changed things so that this can happen. It's like a pocket universe she made, and it might still be that she may have made a pocket universe, and they may have forced her to do so, because I also know that this is supposed to tie in to eventually into the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness movie, which is supposed to also tie into the next Spider-Man movie.
Got it.
So multiverse stuff happening. So this could still be a pocket universe thing that she's made. But if she's made it, she has full control over it. Well, she has some type of control over it. Obviously, she can rewind. Or maybe she doesn't have control over it. And the fact that when she noticed what that thing was, whatever it was, and it was taking her out of it, whoever did have control over it rewound it so that didn't happen, and gave her a slightly different scenario so that it wouldn't go the way it was going to go.
Right.
Yeah. Who knows? So yeah, I was still on the kind of.
I like maybe that guy coming out of the thing. He like entered the room she was in. He wasn't supposed to be there.
Wasn't supposed to be there, or a
kind of subroutine,
a program, a subroutine program or something happened. But yeah, so right now, yeah, I'm of the mind that she's being manipulated in order to get to unlock the power that she gained because of the Mind Stone that she was given. She was manipulated with. Because I know it's going to progress forward.
Was given? How come I can't remember that?
Well, her powers supposedly came from Baron Strucker, which is, they had the whole Strucker Technologies thing commercial. in Age of Ultron, they had been using the power of the scepter to manipulate their genes and give them powers. Yeah.
Got it.
And so that's
Right,
what
right,
they got to put.
right.
How that works, they may figure out a way of it's like, you know what, you can't just manipulate genes like that and get powers like that. They had some inherent thing, and then we started introducing mutants. You know,
Right.
maybe they just unlocked a mutant gene or something like that. Because they need to introduce mutants somehow anyway.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm still of the mind of that. I'm artistically, I love the fact whoever the showrunner is, the creator of the show, I don't recognize his name, loves TV.
Mm-hmm.
Really appreciates kind of classic TV. Not just like, oh, this will be a cute thing to do. It's like, no, he actually understands how some of the mechanisms work in classic TV. It's
For
like,
instance,
yeah.
the chair that Vision did not trip over when he walked into that room.
Right. That was straight Dick Van Dyke.
Straight Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke falls over it, and then he skips around it with his little jaunty step.
Right.
Right. In this case,
He
walked right through it. But also in terms of like the writing, the beats, the corniness to the jokes, that were the proper type of corny. And I'm curious as to how other generations who didn't grow up on reruns of those things, because it's like, yeah, I'm not from that time, but after school, that's what was on TV.
Yeah.
It's like,
so you're
and your mom was off at work. Your mom was doing something. My parents were off doing things. So we were home watching TV, and we were absorbing all these old shows.
Yeah, because that's what we're running.
Right. And because those are the ones that we're rerunning. So whoever is doing this has a real appreciation for those things, because they're not just mocking those shows.
No, they're taking the joy, the things that we liked about it,
right? Yeah,
and laughed, even the corniness, because we're just like, oh my god, I can't believe they're like, I Love Lucy stuff.
Oh yeah,
when you saw that happening, those little asides, and I don't know what about it's just like so the seeds of a sitcom.
Right. And they were personality driven shows, so it's like that might be a corny thing to do, but seeing Lucy do it is awesome.
Right.
And just like, and same with Mary Tyler Moore and things like that. So they weren't making fun of that stuff.
No, and including, for instance, a situation in where his boss is coming to the house and he has to impress him.
Right.
He fails to do so utterly, and she somehow, through her magic,
right,
makes it the best ad campaign ever. How many times was that?
Yeah.
The plot.
Rob. Yeah.
So that was really fun. I like
I'm looking for the progression of that, because in the poster, at least one of the posters, there's like a bunch of TVs, and on one of them looks kind of like a Mod Squad looking thing, where it's like, okay, the black woman's got like a fro and look like she's got like a badge on her hip, and so I'm like, okay, we're getting into like the 70s stuff over there.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
And that reminds me of something, and I'll continue on, but there's something that I think that they missed out on.
What's that?
Okay, well, so obviously we live in a modern time, and we have become more progressive. We're not there yet, but we're making steps, right? And we're better at it than we ever have before. So colorblind casting doesn't actually exist, but the illusion of colorblind casting is a reality in our life. Right. So they included, so this is like a Doctor Who, where they go back in time and there's prevalent black people, and it's just like, okay, this is Doctor Who universe, that happened.
Right.
Or he's walking with a black woman and not everybody's trying to like, what the hell are you doing dressed in that sort of situation? They just they don't write that in. That's not a reality.
Right.
And that's what they're doing here. There are prominent black people, prominent Asian people. I think there's some Latinx people.
And there's
and so I go, oh great, so that happens, and my brain tells me, oh good, it's like a Doctor Who universe where this doesn't matter because it doesn't matter. I think in terms of a commentary, I think they missed out on something, because I think because she's traveling through them pretty rapidly.
Uh-huh.
I would have loved it if in the earlier ones it was all white casted.
Mm-hmm.
But as it progressed,
Well, see,
some of those characters who they've established the names of
uh-huh.
become people of color.
Right. Well,
When they did in real life, like in the 70s, more black people were in shows.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When he went to the first really noticeable one is when he went to the library or whatever for the neighborhood watch.
Oh, the neighborhood watch that he was in. Yeah.
It was like, what, 3 of the 6 people are black in this scene.
Yeah. But it was jarring, but then you
the reason I think this, and the reason I don't have much of an issue with it.
I don't have an issue with it. I just think it's a missed
opportunity. I think all this stuff, all these scenes, this city is being populated by people she actually knows.
Got it.
That she's actually met. That they're actual people that have been placed in there. So, for example, when Anya, I'm blanking on her real name,
Emma Caulfield?
Yeah, Caulfield, Emma. When in the second episode, when she briefly comes out of it and says, what are you? Mm-hmm. Or who are you? I can't remember if it says who are you or what are you, when there's that break. Because I think she's a real person.
Right.
And so, but she somehow has also been placed in that situation. So that's why I think, so when we evolve, then we finally, eventually get out of that, those people will be people
exist
who are of the modern time and have been put in there. Yeah.
Got it. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah, if that's the way it is, then there's no other way.
And also the other thought was, even if they're not real, if it's being populated by her, she's of today. She populates them.
True.
The way her mind is.
True.
Yeah. But now, if she was actually going back to Pleasantville, if she was actually, going back to that kind of time, it's like, oh, no. There's a whole white folks.
You see what I mean by how that would be just a nice subtle thing to happen in the background. Now, whether or not, or because it didn't happen in the show, doesn't mean that I think the show is any less.
Right.
I just sort of think, like, isn't that an interesting concept to consider?
Right.
And I still believe that. I just think, like, how cool would it be if, like, her neighbor, even though we love that actress, I don't know her.
Catherine Hahn.
So obviously she'll stick around.
Freaking brilliant. Yeah.
But you see how it would have been pretty jarring and kind of a really interesting thing to happen as a concept is if this neighbor eventually changed races.
Right.
I just thought that would be an interesting thing. So, but I'm not bothered that it didn't.
Kind of Bewitched style, just recast people.
Yeah. Oh my God. If those characters weren't this, because there's another one, right? It would just be if Bellamy wasn't Vision,
right,
and halfway through he was another actor, just because. Come on, how much would we have laughed?
That'd be hilarious. But no, but yeah, just summing it up. Not necessarily stopping the topic, but I'm impressed by the show. I'm actually glad that this was supposed to be the second show to come out. The first show to come out was supposed to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I have a feeling is going to be a lot darker show and much more. I mean, I think it's still supposed to be kind of a comedy to a certain degree because those guys are, kind of adversarial, but it's going to be more action driven and, and intriguey. And given the fact that our world is so kind of dark right now, having this like international caper, who will take the mantle of Captain America type of, intrigue going on. Maybe it's not the best time. So the fact that this is more lighthearted, there's still darkness to it. I mean, it's still a dark show. It's a dark comedy, but it's taking notes of things we loved in the past TV, and kind of embracing them, and then putting a spin on it for this new intrigue.
Right.
I think it's a good step out of the box for them. I hear that the next episode's probably a half hour, but then after that they start going just like more like Mandalorian in terms of just like it is how long it is.
Right.
So hopefully it'll be a little bit longer episodes because the first one was like 27 minutes and this one was like 35 minutes. But
yeah, that was something that I noticed. I wanted more.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's good to feel now.
And I
Because
think
remember,
for the first
that
ones,
used to always be.
they were
That
going
used
sitcom 30 minutes, right? They're going
Yeah,
bing, wow.
yeah.
But I think as they branch out of that, probably they'll probably start breaking that fourth wall more and getting into
So,
something more modern.
so actually, speaking breaking the fourth wall, um, they only cut to commercial once each episode,
Yes.
and the same two actors were
Same
involved.
two actors, yeah.
So, do we know who they are, or could
Not
we?
yet. Yeah. Not that I don't. They don't look familiar to me. I mean, they look familiar because they're kind of like common looking folks. But the fact that the first note of color was during that first commercial,
Mm-hmm.
that red flash, and
Mm-hmm.
that ticking clock was so ominous.
Yeah.
That ticking timer was so ominous. Uh, and then those commercials are also referring to of like your mental state as something like ease your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one was like it gives you time.
It
It
gives you
was like
time,
so
to
it's
relax. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, interesting. So I'm sure those are little puzzle pieces that'll be put together. And but honestly, the set design awesome. The color palette when they went color, I'm like that's brilliant color. Oversaturated,
Yeah, that really, yeah, it was so cool to
a little
watch
too
happen
much.
too.
That little, they didn't, when they did the helicopter and all that kind of stuff, that was more like regular color. But when they went into color TV, it's like, oh yeah, turn those lights up, and crank the saturation on there. So he was a little too purple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that was well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So these drop on what day?
Friday.
They do.
It's Mandalorian 12:01.
Okay. Which is
On
why
Friday.
you watched it at 6 a.m.
I watched at 6 a.m. Just woke up in the morning, and yeah, I get up to do the bike anyway, and so I just didn't do the bike that morning. I just watched an hour of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, what did Bob think? She liked it?
what's that? Oh yeah, she enjoyed it. Yeah, she
'Cause
she
she's
was
more in
cracking up because
tune.
she loves those old TV shows too.
Yeah,
So she
yeah.
was
That's
just
what I was
cracking
gonna
up.
say. She's more in
Yeah,
tune with those old TV shows
yeah,
than I think I am.
and like I said, and Catherine Hahn, we've seen her in many different things. So once I saw that she was in it, I knew I was going to love it because she's like that. That's how she acts a lot for other characters. She's very much of the like the thin man, uh, bringing up baby, like snappy, madcap comedy from the 40s type of
Mhm.
actress. She's like she was meant to be written by like what's the West Wing guy?
Oh,
That guy.
yeah, him.
Yeah, but that kind of really quick wit delivery. She's great at it. So that just kind of like, oh, and blah, 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 and do this with your meat. She's a natural at it. And so for her, so watching her do it, it's like, oh yeah, just give her something to say and she'll just rattle it off. She's so good at it.
Yeah,
And her
yeah.
face is just a cartoon.
It was marvelous.
Yeah.
To the
So
point that you know that I don't think it's never come up in conversation, but there is a characterization that exists in the world that I hate, and that's the next door neighbor.
yeah, the nosy neighbor, or yeah,
Never
sometimes it's a
liked
nosy. Yeah.
I never liked that character wherever it occurs.
Uh-huh.
Not even if they're nosy, just ones that are clueless,
Right.
or ones that are even if they're friendly. It's just that they're always there. I don't know. There's something about it that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And it didn't occur so much with her.
Yeah. No,
Because I saw that she was a caricature of it, and I could appreciate that they really gave her some stuff to chew on.
And given that I know, where this is going to a certain degree in terms of like, how reality will creep in, she also is a really scary actress. She's also good at playing that kind of really imposing, impressive lawyer.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to that switch, of when reality creeps in and she has to break character, because she has really good range. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of range, it was great to see Bellamy act a fool.
Yep.
Bellamy,
Yeah,
Bettany.
isn't that his Bennett? What is his name?
It's
I
Bettany.
said Bellamy.
Yeah, it's Bettany.
Bettany, thank you.
Yeah. but,
Yeah.
but to see him,
Mm-hmm.
in normal face, and honestly, I don't know whose brilliant idea. I mean, when they cast him as Jarvis, and when Joss said he's going to have he's going to have Ultron and he's going to have the Vision, and he said, well, if I was going to cast the Vision, it would be Paul Bettany, and
Bettany.
there you go. It's like perfect. It was just perfect casting,
Yeah.
as Jarvis. Um, so to see him be able to have that kind of to show that range, that kind of goofiness that that
He
normally
rarely
you wouldn't
gets that.
see from.
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything that was
Yeah,
like comedic.
yeah, yeah. He's done more. I've never seen him do a goofy comedy. I've seen him do other roles that are more rangy than the Vision. I mean, Vision is not very rangy.
No.
Even though there was comic, the way I watched Age of Ultron again the other day, the way he was written, Joss gave him some really good comic timing lines. He played him straight, and that's made him funny. But
Right.
the fact that he was given that kind of range to just be a goofball and all that kind of stuff was
To act the drunkard
well,
was really fun.
yeah,
It was really fun. I love the little cartoon cutaway.
the little cartoon cutaways, which is like
That was
really
just so delightful to me,
yeah,
because that's the kind of shit I like.
yeah,
I like it when they show something that's happening and then they show it mechanical, where it should obviously be biological, or it's
right,
biological and it should obviously be
right.
mechanic. That reminds me of Warner Brother cartoon.
Right. And
type
that's the
thing.
kind of but it's also that's the kind of trope that they would use for something like that. Or they'd have a wooden thing and they'd have like a puppet of a gumdrop going down the thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's the kind of thing they would do. Yeah, just have a little cartoon like it would be in a commercial and have it go. It was brilliant. It struck great notes on those kind of
So
things.
then real quick, because I know we should sum this up. This is a really long video, but
Yeah, it's going to be a long one.
but
Hey,
there's something that occurred to me in terms of however it's done. She's in an alternative universe.
yeah, in one way or another, either
One way or another.
virtually or real, and they're just monitoring it,
Okay,
whatever.
yeah. And there are characters that populate it. I believe you're correct that these would be characters that exist outside, that she's populated because she knows them, which makes me wonder, are they all good?
Right.
Because some of them might not be, because Wanda doesn't know they're not.
Right. Yeah,
The next door neighbor
absolutely
could
possible.
be, like you were saying, like she's played a hard ass
Mhm.
in other roles.
Right.
It could be really jarring.
Yeah.
That her best friend, next door neighbor, the helpful one,
Right.
in reality
Is one of the scientists working on
one
it
of
or
the
something.
scientists. That would be really bizarre.
Yeah.
Some of these reveals, I think, are going to feel like Battlestar Galactica.
We'll see. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. Yeah. And so the other question is, it's like, okay, well, where does Vision fit in all this?
And does Vision exist? Because he
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. So yeah, where does he fit in all this?
Are we going to?
Or is this a pocket universe where then he gets drawn out of it? Who knows?
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
Is that the point of this?
Yeah.
To fully form Vision, to pull out of the universe.
Yeah. Don't know.
That could be the whole reason.
Yeah. But it's also, it's a great mechanism for character development in terms of just evolution.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, well, we can have this guy who's kind of wooden, and he's obviously he loves this this other character, but he hasn't had time to experience life much, and so we need to somehow make him flesh him out as a character. You can have this kind of stuff happen to him, and then have him come out of it as like, hey, a fully formed,
Yeah.
Just like go through the process.
Well, I'll tell you, that's what I kind of hope.
Yeah.
That's why you see. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah. I'd like to not be done with Vision.
because I want Vision back.
Yeah. Right.
I really want
Yeah.
Vision back because
Yeah.
that's such a fascinating character.
Yeah, and I don't think it won't take away from his death at all. It's like, it's if it's done right, you can bring people back. I don't like the trope of just, killing people off because it's dramatic and then just, we never saw the body, so they're not dead.
Right.
But
But it happens.
But it happens. And so bringing him back, Do you bring Quicksilver back? What happens with Quicksilver?
Right. Oh.
Do they bring?
Oh,
I've
wait a
seen
second.
no
Is
sign.
this
I've
a
seen no
sequel?
sign that he's involved in this show in the slightest. But
But if she's in that sort of state,
hey,
that would be someone she would create,
you know, so
right?
yeah, you would think. But again,
But you can see how I hope that would be a really interesting thing to
mhm.
see. And I hope it's her, her brother from out of town.
Right,
That's the thing
right,
that's happened in those shows, right? My
right,
brother's coming to town, and then there's this whole mix up because of the brother in town and his personality mixing with all the other people
right.
that they normally interact with, that sort of thing. That would be really interesting to see. Now, but again, because this is something that was on my notes that I really wanted to ask about, at least to inform me again, because I've forgotten some of it. I was trying to remember, and maybe to inform some of the viewers here. The origin of Vision. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Vision is one of the oldest characters that's existed in that universe. He was just under another name.
Well, there's the Marvel Comics universe, and then there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So,
Right.
so
But in
in
the
the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've seen his entire origin.
right.
Yeah,
But
we've
it's
seen it all.
right. So I guess yeah. So that isn't
And
going.
but it was one of these things that in the and they can always tie it a little bit, but in the comics universe, there's a tie. There's a tie-in to the cinematic universe. Because if you go back to Captain America: First Avenger,
Mhm.
when they went to the World's Fair or whatever, where they did the big expo,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
they were going through. There was the person who there was the body inside of the tube that was, I can't remember what they called him, or the something automated man or something like that.
Mhm.
And so that was Toro, I think.
Toro.
Uh,
Right.
or it was either Toro or just the original Human Torch in the comics. I think it was the original
Yeah.
Human Torch.
Original Human Torch becomes Toro.
Yeah. So he was,
Right.
but he was an android,
Yeah.
and so in the comics, that body stays around,
Right.
and so it gets imbued with the psyche of Simon Williams, the Wonder Man, plus Ultron's stuff that he puts in there with Hank Pym, yeah, and it becomes Vision. So yeah, it's got an old, yeah, he's like one of the first superheroes, just in a new, just like new, same body, just new casing,
Yeah. New. Yeah.
new
New innards,
participant,
really.
new psyche.
Thank you.
But yeah, so but in the MCU, that body was fully formed there, in that chamber
In that chamber.
during
Right. Right.
Age of
Right.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, and I see no reason why they would throw back. Now
Yeah,
that I think about it, but it was just I needed a reminder.
yeah.
Toro was what I was thinking. The thing I forgot.
Well,
That
was it because there was Human Torch, and I think Toro might have been his little assistant, might have been his Robin, like his sidekick,
I can't
Toro.
remember. I
Can't
can't
remember.
remember.
Sorry, I can't remember all my 1940s comics characters.
So yeah, this video went on a little bit longer than we thought, but this is the way these conversations go.
Yeah, seriously.
Just like Jerry was saying about like the Mandalorian, how it's as long as it is, and then it's done. That's
Yeah.
kind of what we're doing here. It would be nice if we could fit things into a nice little package, but he and I have never been good at that.
But yeah, so I think we're going to be starting a new channel with this. So I don't know what channel this is on, but please like and subscribe, and hit the little notification button. We're going to try to put these out on a weekly basis, and maybe even more often than that if we give you little tidbits here
Yeah,
and
if
there.
there's things that need to be said or done.
Or if these things end up being so long that maybe we'll just chop them up into
Right, part 2.
an hour and a half breaks or something like that.
Yeah, that might happen this time. We'll find out.
Yeah, maybe.
I have no idea. This might be 2 hours long.
Oh, it's 2 hours long. Yeah, I guarantee you it's 2 hours long because we
Oh.
got some good stuff in here.
Yeah.
But please put your comments down on the page. Any questions you have for us, things you'd like to hear us talk about, things you'd like to know about us. We'll pretty much ask us anything. If we don't want to answer it, we won't answer it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I didn't. What comment was that?
Yeah, that's the way it is. But no, thanks for the conversation and thanks for stopping by, folks. And we will see you next time.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, buddy. Bye.